Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 5. I'm sitting here with Jaime. Jaime, what is happening at Laidlaw's Harley Davidson? Marco just got a new bike build. Milo's dad just picked up one of the Coast Glide. What's going on there? What's happening with everybody?
Well, man, I think it has a lot to do, like you mentioned, with the Coast Glides, because once those came out and started winning every single custom motorcycle awards, I think they brought a lot of attention, and the FXRT was already a pretty, admired motorcycle. But since then, and the new release of the Softails, people have been building over them and try and bring the look back to the FXRT. And I think they're doing an amazing job, man. That is been bringing a lot of attention over these guys at Laidlaw. Like I said, I talked to Matt a couple of times, and I thought it was good to give him a call and bring it over to the podcast and see what he had to say and about the new builds and how does a customer get from wanting a motorcycle to walking out of that door with a new beast.
I agree. I think we should try to get a hold of Matt Laidlaw and pick his brain and talk about these custom builds. It's very exciting what's coming out of this dealership, and his social media game is blowing up. Let's try to give him a call. Let's give him a ring.
Hello?
Hey, Matt, this is Robert from the Boundless podcast. How are you doing?
Good, Robert. How you doing, man?
Good, man. We were just talking about these sexy bikes that are coming out of your shop. Can you let us know your position and what's going on at your dealership and what your strategies are?
Yeah. So, right now I'm the general sales manager. And really it's just we're all about giving people what they want and really focusing on kind of the style that's been emerging the last, decade with kind of purpose-built, soft tails and, for lack of a better term, kind of the club style look and the retro FXRT look. And, really just kind of having our thumb on the pulse of what people are asking for, in Southern California especially, but I feel like the style is getting more popular worldwide, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big influence worldwide. What got you into this, or how did you get into Harley Davidson originally?
So my grandfather, Bob Laidlaw, started Laidlaw's Harley Davidson back in 1958. And his son, my dad, Jerry Laidlaw, has worked there his entire life as well, along with my uncle, who's Brent Laidlaw. And so it was kind of organic for me where during summers, during high school and, before college and everything, they had me just doing odds and ends jobs at the shop, whether it be, running parts, picking up bikes, doing dealer trades, cleaning, trimming the hedges, whatever it may be. So I was kind of just, like I said, just naturally, organically included in kind of the family business at a very young age.
Yeah, I'm lucky you. I mean, there's many people that I know would love to grow up around the Harley Davidson dealerships and trim hedges and do all that fun stuff. Yeah, that's an honor.
Yeah, I'm pretty blessed.
Yeah, very blessed. How did you guys get into all the customizing? Because a lot of other dealerships don't do it as much. I used to, real quick, just to let you know, if you haven't heard the other podcast before, I used to work at Warren's Harley Davidson in Monterey County. And Warren was one of the old-time owners that had it forever. I was the general manager there, and then I was at Van Nuys. We didn't do much customization back in the days. You guys do a lot of customizations, build custom bikes. I mean, you guys do things that other dealerships don't. What made you guys get into that, and why do you think other dealers don't do it? At the degree that you do it, just to be clear.
Yeah. And I have, heard you you guys have 4 podcasts out right now. So I have heard your stuff and I'm a fan, by the way. Yeah. I got to know you a little bit, Robert, through the podcasts. And that's cool. You used to work at a dealer, but, to answer your question, I think for the longest time we've done custom work and custom, Harley Davidsons. It's just that with my channel, my YouTube channel, it's just more in the public eye. And so I think and it's kind of been a snowball effect where the more we do, the more I show on my YouTube channel. So the more people kind of see our work and therefore come to us for that type of work. So it's kind of a perpetuating type of a thing. But the reason why other dealers don't do it as much, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just that, we're blessed to live in Southern California and Los Angeles, where um, I think the average income is greater than other parts of the country and world. And so maybe people have the extra finances and budget to do that type of stuff. I will say too that just because of the longevity of our dealership being around for over 60 years now, we've kind of gained that reputation over a long period of time. That, and I'll say our technicians are just really good at our shop as well. And, things like relationships, like the relationships we have with the painters and things like that have just kind of, we've nurtured those relationships over the years.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I almost, I mean, they're good points, but I agree with you in the sense that it's interesting that I don't see more of it, because I remember back in the days when I was at the dealerships, there was limited companies doing custom parts, and Harley didn't want to do any custom parts. They weren't doing seats, they weren't doing really much custom paints except for their CVOs and maybe their anniversary editions. But right now, when I would put a bike together, in 2007, I had to take parts from other bikes. Now I see people building bikes that are just beautiful. I mean, outstanding bikes, motorcycles.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see the aftermarket really grow, and especially some of these newer, younger companies come into the scene and make parts that appeal to the younger generation, like the millennial generation. And Harley Davidson taking note, and I think Harley Davidson in the last decade or so has definitely taken note and noticed that, and basically up to their game as well. I've seen them, take certain styles that were emerging that you could only see in the aftermarket world, and then you'd see them come out with a new collection of parts.
It's
Like
beautiful.
the end game they just came out with, yeah, and it kind of coincides with current styles. So yeah.
Can we talk about one of the many bikes that you've done, the Coast Glide? Can we talk about what you guys put into it? What was the idea? Who designed it? Where did it all come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, the Coast Glide was our build or our entry into the Battle of the Kings competition, which is a competition among Harley Davidson dealerships. And really the main idea was to build a bike that we would like to see Harley Davidson build. We wanted to build a bike that we feel like if Harley Davidson built the bike off the factory assembly line, that it would sell extremely well. And so that was kind of our vision, and that was our goal. And I feel like we accomplished that. But really, as far as the design and everything goes, it came together actually pretty naturally for us. It was mostly myself and Keith that put the bike together on paper.
Keith is
Keith Hurt. Yeah, I'm sorry. Keith Hurt. He's our service department manager. He's been with our dealership for, I want to say 20 years plus now, for a long time. And before that, he was in like Carson City. So he's been in the whole Harley Davidson scene for a very long time now. We're very lucky to have him. But yeah, Keith and I kind of put everything on paper as far as the ideas and kind of the parts that were going to be used. And then he's the crew chief, and he was kind of the liaison between the conceptual idea and actually implementing it in the shop. And then we had Jamie Myers, who put the bulk of the bike together. And then we had Steve Garcia, who really helps put a lot of this stuff together as well. And then, of course, you had to use a student, like an MMI student, as part of the job. So yeah, that's kind of the crux of everything that happened. And then, of course, long story short, we ended up winning the national championship, and then we ended up winning the global championship as well.
And you guys deserved it. Can you tell me the approach and what kind of the motor work you guys did to it and what you were shooting for on the colors and the theme?
Yeah, so we wanted to do high visibility wheels. And we also wanted to do something that was kind of iconic. So we chose orange, which is Harley Davidson's color, obviously.
Absolutely.
And we just kind of seen the high visibility wheel trend getting, more and more prevalent among
Those
the
wheels,
custom.
what do we have in the front and the back size?
So the wheel is the front wheel is a 19-inch wheel. It's actually off of a touring bike. It's called an Enforcer wheel, which comes on like the Road Glide and the Street Glide standard.
Nice.
And that actually fitted pretty nicely onto the front end without a whole lot of custom fabrication. And then the rear wheel is actually just a stock Sport Glide wheel. So they're technically mismatched wheels, but because the design pattern was so close with like the same kind of angular lines and with the saddlebag in the rear, we just felt like it didn't really detract from it at all. And there was a budget. I think that's kind of a fact that wasn't very widely known, is there was a budget for these bikes. So we had to be kind of creative.
Can you talk about the budget, or just to get an idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was half of MSRP. So the MSRP on a Sport Glide, I want to say, was like $19,000. So it was half of that, and the other guideline was you had to use 50% genuine Harley Davidson parts. So a lot of people will say, well, hey Matt, there's no way in hell you guys built that bike for $9,000 in extras. And a lot of those parts were, we had relationships with vendors and stuff where we got those parts for very, very inexpensive. And so that's really how we were able to do it. And we kind of leveraged the fact that, hey, this is going to be a bike that, you guys can get some exposure on your parts. Little did they know they were going to be, on the world stage, but that's kind of what we did, and that's how we did it.
No, that's amazing. You guys did a great job. I think our buddy's father just purchased the bike after all the shows and stuff you guys just did. So I can't wait to do a little photo shoot with it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Can we talk about when somebody goes to your dealership and they want to customize their bike, like Marco? He just went out there and got the 2020 FXDLS. Can you talk about the process, how you guys guide them? Do you guys influence it? Is it more that you guys walk it through, or do clients have the vision? Or, and let's talk about it through the sales, from the very beginning, from picking out the bike, going to sales, going to finance, going to customization, et cetera. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I think when people come in, they do have somewhat of their own personal vision. And then I sit down and I'll start with them first, just because I'm in the sales department. I can kind of get a rough idea of what they're looking for. And obviously I have pretty good parts knowledge myself. And so we'll start kind of putting stuff on paper, and then I can kind of tell them, okay, that's not going to work. This is going to work. And what do you want here? The thing with Marco that made it a little bit easier with Marco is the fact that he had pretty good knowledge about different parts he wanted to use. And he did a lot of his own research online and whatnot. And he's had and built, customized bikes before. So he kind of had a good idea of what he wanted. So really what it does, it goes to me where I put everything on paper, and then we take it to the parts department or Keith if it's a really involved project. And then he'll assign basically part numbers to everything. And he'll put that all on paper with the correct part numbers, with the pricing. Then I'll come back to the customer and tell them, okay, hey, here's your bill. Here's what we're looking at. And then they'll kind of see the total. And usually it's, okay, wow, that's more than I expected, as these things usually go. And then they can kind of make cuts based on their budget. And then, there's usually 3 or 4 back and forths with Marco specifically. There was months of back and forth, actually, of just trying, because it was such an involved bike. And then, after going over the parts list with them thoroughly 5, 6, 7, sometimes 15 times, we'll then sell them the bike. So they'll, be committed for the bike, and then we'll get to work.
What was the most challenging part of Marco's bike, if there was anything challenging for you guys? And what?
That might be.
And I'm sorry, one more thing. What makes it last? Because that project took a few months. What, 3, 4 months?
Yeah.
What makes it? What separates it from it being done in a week versus 6 months, et cetera? And what was the most challenging part of that build?
Yeah, I think the technician would probably be the better person to answer that, but because I don't actually physically build the bikes. I think you guys know that. We have our technicians that have been doing it for years that put them together, especially for customers that are, paying, top dollar for stuff like that. So if I were to kind of say, just because I do watch these and monitor them pretty closely, there are certain parts that you don't always think aren't going to be compatible with one another. Like we had an issue with the crash bar that he ended up picking up, and we had to send it back. I think it was like a Speed Kings or something, or a Speed Merchant, one of those guys, and we had issues with trying to return that. We did have another thing too is we had built the Coast Glide on a Sport Glide, and Marco's bike was the Lowrider S, and so the bracket that mounted like the Russ Wernemont fairing had to be different. And so we had to kind of go through, we worked pretty closely with Russ Wernemont. We have a pretty good relationship with him. And so working with him to get the right bracket to mount, because the fork angle is a little bit different. It's a 28-degree fork angle on a Lowrider S. I don't want to get into the weeds too much on this, but trying to get that to work right took some time. Marco's wasn't the first bike we did that fairing on, being a Lowrider S, but we did have to kind of go through these trial and error things before we got to Marco's bike. But just little things like that, like parts compatibility that you have to, try and then figure out a solution if it doesn't work. And, we had to call Marco a couple of times and tell him, hey, this isn't working. What can we do instead? And stuff like that, which he didn't have to kind of concede too much and compromise too much of his ultimate vision, really, if any at all, quite frankly.
Let's bring it back to your experience and your time at the dealership. Where do you see Harley was? Where do you see them now, and where do you see them going? Since you have more inside information of the changes and the progress Harley has done.
Well, I think Harley Davidson, if you just look at their stock price, it's decreased since about 2014.
But that's everybody's right now too.
Agreed. I mean, starting in February, everything obviously with the COVID-19 thing has taken a drop for sure. But I think the big criticism that's going around with Harley Davidson right now, which I would agree with to a lesser degree, not the extent that people are saying off the rooftops right now, but that their core demographic or core customer, the baby boomers, is kind of dwindling away, and Harley Davidson isn't appealing as much to like your millennials generation. So we obviously sales have seen a decline. I mean, not a gradual decline over the last, you can call it 5 or 6 years. And so I think Harley Davidson right now is at a point where, for lack of a better term, kind of hit rock bottom. And I think right now with all these things that are coming up with their adventure bike and the naked upright sport bike, their street fighter, which is called the Bronx, these things kind of combined with new marketing practices and new ways of doing business, I think we're going to start to see Harley Davidson rebound in a very strong way in the next, 2-3 years. And I think, to answer your question, I think it's going to be large in part because of the new markets they're getting into. And I just feel like they're getting a little bit more in touch with the modern day customer, and they're doing things now, both with digital marketing and whatnot, to appeal to that newer, younger generation.
And there's also a new tracker bike and cafe racer, correct? That they're planning to come out with.
Well,
and
those are the rumors on the internet.
Yeah, and the electric bike.
Yeah, the Livewire, obviously that's out now, and they're currently on showroom floors, and you can buy them.
I personally think the Livewire, for me, I think it's kind of crazy. I love the idea that Harley's trying to get into that market, but for that price range and for the range that it drives, it kind of, for me, it's like moving a little backwards. I feel like it was a little too early for them to move it out. How are sales on those?
Sales haven't been great, and I don't think Harley Davidson expected to move a ton of them. I think they wanted to launch their electric platform in a very, controlled manner to make sure that, they don't pump out 1 million bikes and have, problems with them. So yeah, sales haven't been real good. The ones that we've sold, people are in love with them. People that test ride them absolutely love them. But to kind of reflect on your sentiment. You said with the price and everything, I agree with you, and I think a lot of people kind of share your thought that $30,000 for an electric bike with the range that it has. I think a lot of people, that's kind of gotten people to shy away from it.
No,
And
that's the only thing. I mean, who wouldn't want to
yeah,
ride an electric motorcycle that says Harley Davidson? You know, everybody would want that. But at 30, what's the MSRP? 30,000, 33,000.
yeah, it's 29,799. I think is the exact number, but yeah, 30 grand basically.
Yeah. So no, I'm sure in the future we're going to see those prices adjust and get better. And obviously, this is the first model, so we're looking forward on that. But I'm very excited about the new adventure bike they're coming out with. Do you have any information on that?
Well, the information I have is basically just public information. That's all I can really talk about. But yeah, I mean, and just to touch on one more thing on the Livewire before we move on. I mean, the Livewire, it really is their Halo bike, which is basically their all-in everything, at which they executed at an exceptional level. And if you guys are ever interested in riding one, come down anytime to our dealership, and we'll get you on a test ride anytime. It's a pretty fun bike to ride, but yeah, the adventure bike. I mean, they've been putting it in their shows. It was at the EICMA show in Italy back in November, and then they've been putting it like the IMS, the International Motorcycle Shows, like at Long Beach. And so it's out there for everybody to see. You know, they have a Revolution Max engine. That's the core architecture is very similar to what we saw in the V-Rod. It's a 60-degree liquid cooled, dual overhead cam, high revving. It's going to be putting up, I think they said like 140 horsepower. So it's
a beast.
Yeah, it's going to be badass.
It's going to be super badass. Like I really can't wait. Is there a date when it'll be released that they published, or anything that you can talk about? Release dates?
So yeah, it's going to be a 2021 model year release, they've said, and that in the Bronx. So we should be seeing it before the end of this calendar year. I don't know if they're going to launch it right at the beginning of the model year, which is August. August is when they have their dealer meeting, when they kind of show off all the new models. I don't know if it'll be there or not. It might be delayed 2 or 3 months, kind of like what we saw with the Livewire. I don't know, but it will be. We will see it this calendar year, in the 2020 calendar year.
Nice. I'm really looking forward to that. I do want to, and I also want to take up the offer of riding the Livewire, because I have not ridden that. The only ones I've ridden, I ridden another company about 8-9 years ago. I don't remember the name, but I do want to ride the Livewire, and I can't wait for the new adventure bike to come out. Beyond Harley Davidson, if Harley Davidson didn't exist, if you weren't from the dealership, etc., what motorcycle would you be riding, and what are your favorites?
Well, I grew up riding dirt bikes, and so I really love, like, off-road dirt bikes. Like, I really love KTM. I've ridden those over the years. I'd probably, I don't own one right now, but if all of a sudden I didn't have a Harley and I didn't have that, tugging at my budget strings, I'd probably get like a 500 EXC, and I'd probably get an adventure bike of some sort. If Harley wasn't in the picture, which, by the way, I do plan on getting the Pan America when it comes out. But if Harley Davidson wasn't in the picture, I'd probably go with either the BMW or the KTM. I'd probably have a GS, or I'd get the Super Adventure, one of those two bikes.
Yeah, they're very, very nice bikes. What do you think of the Ducatis, the Hyper Motard?
Yeah, that would be probably right there in the top 3 as well. The Multistrada, the Hyper Motard, I think is like the Street Fighter. They have a Street Fighter as well. Yeah, the Hyper Motard is kind of like your upright sport bike, naked sport bike. Which those are badass bikes. I love them. It's just with my height, I'm 6'6". A lot of that stuff I don't fit on real well.
I mean, any of those models and all those models are absolutely great ones. Anything else you want to let customers know about? Are you guys open right now with the COVID-19?
Yeah, we're open on a little bit of a limited basis. Everything is open as far as sales and service and parts and everything. We're limiting the amount of people that are in the dealership. Our hours have changed a little bit from 11 to 6 o'clock. And, it's really best to kind of do as much business online as possible. So if you're looking to get your bike serviced, obviously we're considered an essential business, or whatever they're calling it right now. So we're still taking care of everybody as best we can. Hopefully this whole thing blows over soon.
Yeah,
But
hopefully for a
yeah,
lot of people, for all of America and for the world.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's the economies. I'm worried about it. So as everybody else is, and obviously everyone that's infected with the illness too. But
Yeah. So
yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and yeah, maybe we can go on a ride someday. I've been looking at you guys' Instagram, and I believe it's Jaime that curates most of that, right? And yeah, you guys, some of your content's pretty awesome.
no, we greatly appreciate that. We would definitely look forward to riding on the street or on dirt. Where do you ride on the dirt when you do ride? Do you do Mojave or Gorman?
We usually go to Adelanto, like up to 395. That whole like corridor right outside of like Adelanto is where we typically go. There's a couple different exits off the 395 highway that you can kind of sneak out into the desert, and like Lake El Mirage, right around that area.
Yeah, we haven't done that. Well, maybe we'll plan that next. And what's your favorite street ride?
Local stuff, I really love Angeles Crest. Yeah, obviously the road that we used when we filmed Marco's bike. That's a great road, and I love hitting up like Mulholland. Doing the Snake. I don't know what the status is right now with that road. Is it still closed down because of the fires and everything?
No, last I checked, it wasn't. It's still accessible. I mean, there's probably sections closed off, but most of it's opened up.
Yeah, so that road, and then like PCH is always a good one, and obviously there's a bunch of different stretches of PCH that is pretty awesome to ride.
Yeah, so for the people that are listening that never been to California, take his advice. These are all great roads to ride, especially PCH. That's one of my top favorites. Matt, thank you so much. Matt, where can we find you? What's your YouTube channel? What's your Instagram? What's your Twitter?
Yeah, so YouTube channel is just Matt Laidlaw, and my Instagram is Matt_Laidlaw. And yeah, I'm actually working on a video right now today on the 30th anniversary Fat Boy. So yeah, check it out.
Looking forward to it. Matt, thank you so very much for your time. Thank you for picking up the call. Have a great day. And hopefully we'll get through this, coronavirus situation done quick. So good luck, and absolutely. See you on the road.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks a lot. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. You take care.
All right. Thanks.
Very exciting, Jaime. I think it was awesome that Matt Laidlaw picked up the phone and had that conversation with me. What did you get out of everything he said?
Well, the thing that I like the most of this conversation is finding out through the little things that he says about his personality, and see how, even being part of the Laidlaw family, he worked at the dealership all the way from the ground up, and now he is a sales manager, and he doesn't only wear that hat, but also like comes up with new custom projects and creating a whole Harley Davidson online presence that nobody has been able to replicate and make it work as successfully as he has been doing. And it's all really related to what I was saying at the beginning. It's all about putting hard work, creating reviews, going out live, and showing us all the brand new motorcycles every time the Harley Davidson does a release, putting down ideas for every single week, releasing a new video, and keeping engaged the customers. I think it's a pretty good thing what he has going on.
I strongly do believe what they're doing is a good thing, and the reason I believe that is because there is 3 different type of clients that I see, and there's usually client number 1 that likes to buy a motorcycle and kind of work on it and build on it on his own, and 1 because it might be financial, or 2 because he's just not quite sure what he wants, but he wants to do it himself. Then you also have other clients that know exactly what they want, kind of like Marco, and they design their motorcycle, and Laidlaw fulfills that need, and they know exactly what they want. Also, you have the third client, and the third client is the people that want to get their first motorcycle, and they have some cash, and they don't know exactly, all the third-party companies and brands that make all these parts for motorcycles. So they kind of want something that's completely fixed up, and the fact that Laidlaw has that option, and they have that passion for just building motorcycles for competitions and then selling it, where anybody can get it, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think the experience that Milo had with his father, it's great. They've been eyeing this motorcycle for a while, winning contest after contest, and the fact that they are able to purchase it right after, and probably not with an overpriced tag, I think it's amazing because they grab a bike, they do a custom project that is going to elevate the image of the business, and then they sell it to the public, which is great. It's also the way that they express their probably their creativity and stuff. I think it's great, man.
Love what Matt's doing out there. Love what Laidlaw's doing out there. If you're looking for a new motorcycle or something built, or you just want to pick somebody's brain, I strongly recommend them. And we're going to be talking to Matt a lot more. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Please follow us at Ride Boundless on Instagram, YouTube, on Twitter. It's Ride Boundless 1. Subscribe, follow, like, and please share. And thank you for listening, and see you on the next one.